So we've got all the 1, 5, 6, 7, yeah. They do.
Yeah, I'm just-
Lots of stuff. Oh, I'm getting my stuck with the whole video.
Everybody to the Milburn Township Planning Board meeting tonight. In accordance with section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, chapter 231, public law 1975. Be advised that notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board at town hall and serving the officially designated newspaper to list the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at the Milburn Board of Education Center building at 7:30 p.m. on June 3rd, 2026. May I have a roll call, please?
Jonathan Baxter.
Here.
Allison Canfield. Here. Michael Cohen.
Here.
Jorge Mastropetro. Deborah Nevis. Here. Frank Sacamandi. Michael Zion.
Here.
Vice Chair Srini Vijay. Chair Gaston Happert.
Here.
Surjit Sipso.
Here.
Chris Heinrichs.
All right, yeah, thank you again for everybody being here tonight. I know there's a Knicks game on at 8:30. We're gonna try to get through all of this, so we have a very full agenda. We have some minutes for approval, a couple ordinances to review for master plan consistency, one application, an environmental commission presentation, and then we're gonna close up with an executive session, a brief executive session. So to begin, did everybody receive the regular meeting minutes for April 15th, 2026? Are there any questions or comments? I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes for April 15th, 2026 for the regular meeting portion of our meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And no abstentions because no one was absent that night.
Motion passes. Did everybody receive the executive session minutes for April 15th, 2026? Any questions or comments? That being said, I'll make a motion to approve and adopt the minutes for the executive session for April 15th, 2026. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, first order of business is ordinance 2754-26. We'll be reviewing that ordinance for master plan consistency. It's for a historic designation for the Mount Zion African Methodist Episcopal Church located at 54 Church Street, block 1103, lot 7. Graham, could you take us through your memo and tell us a little bit about it, please?
Sure, I can. And just for the benefit of the board, I did do a combined memo for both of the historic designations. So it's 2754-26 and 2755-26. Again, these are ordinances, I believe, following historic nomination process. Did not come through the normal zoning course of the zoning code examination committee, just for everyone's benefit. So we did not author these, but I did prepare on short notice this afternoon. Consistency review to facilitate the board's review this evening. So I'll go through and read it into the record to determine the benefit and for the benefit of the record. So in accordance with this, the land use law, the governing body may adopt ordinances that regulate the use of lands and buildings prior to adoption. For NJSA 4455D-64, the governing body must refer the ordinance to the planning board for review and determination whether the ordinance is consistent with the master plan. To facilitate the planning board's consistency review, we provided all relevant portions of the 2018 master plan re-examination update for the township, as well as consideration of the 2023 historic preservation element of the master plan. It's the correct year. Just a brief summary of the ordinance. Again, this is just based on our read of it. So ordinance 2755-26 designates bridges associated with the Morrison, Essex, and the Old Main, Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad as a thematic historic district, and ordinance 2754-26 designates the Mount Zion A.M. Church as a historic landmark under the township's ordinances. The historic district ordinance for the railroad facilities will preserve the historic nature of the structures along the M&E rail line and preserve 11 train bridges or structures, one of which is identified as a key contributing structure, and the remaining 10 are identified as contributing structures. The district will preserve the integrity and character of Milburn's train bridges. The historic landmark ordinance 2754 nominates the Mount Zion A&E Church located at Church Street as it satisfies multiple attributes of Code Section 804.2 of the DRZ, including the character, interest, or value of the development heritage or cultural characteristics of the township, state, or nation. The church has records dating back to 1881, and the current building was constructed in 1902. The property has also previously been included in the Milburn Center walking tour booklet, as noted on page 64 of that 2023 historic preservation element of the master plan. With respect to its relationship to the township master plan, the ordinances advance the following objectives and recommendations contained within the master plan reexamination and update. Goal 5, to recognize and encourage preservation of area structures and sites of historic interest. Goal 5, objective 5.01, encourage the preservation and restoration of structures of historic and or architectural significance. And goal 5, objective 5.04, support the Historic Preservation Commission in its pursuit of safeguarding the heritage of the township by preserving Milburn's cultural, historical, social, archaeological, and architectural resources and sites. Tonight, the planning board shall make and transmit to the township committee a report identifying any provisions in the proposed ordinances that are inconsistent with the master plan and make recommendations concerning those inconsistencies and any other matters as the board deems appropriate.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, and as Graham said, the memo covers both ordinances. We did also, to facilitate the process, provide the usual type resolution that we provide, so that if the board wishes to make a determination, certainly the board should make a determination one way or the other, but it's drafted as being not inconsistent. That's not to tell you which way to vote. You make your own determination, of course, as always. But that would facilitate the process, so you can go right to adopting a resolution, and that would be along with the ordinance and Graham's memo with respect to each of these ordinances, both historic designation ordinances. It would be the communication back to the governing body from this board with its consistency determination. So, but I would, as always, ask you to consider each separately and vote separately to adopt each resolution with respect to each ordinance's master plan consistency.
I do have one question or comment for the Mount Zion Church. That is a self recommendation, correct? So
Yes, based on our review of the nomination report, and I'm sure Chris Canfield can elaborate, but it's a self-nominated process.
thank you. Excellent. And you've already covered the train bridge ordinance, correct? With everything.
Yes.
On that one, I do have a question about if stuff does need to change with the railroad, will they have any issues going through us now because we've nominated them to be historic markers, or?
I mean, I can certainly answer that. As our bridges are deteriorating, and a lot of them are historic, whether they're overpasses or bridges, what it will do is have them repair it in the same manner historically, instead of a new way of, concrete and steel. So that was what we pushed forward to the TC, is that we'd really like to protect some of these bridges that we all know. We have several large bridges that probably are in need of repair. Around town, you can see where we have lost a few because they did change, those bridges. Even if they had to raise them, they still have to do it with the same historic building materials or like building materials. So other towns do it. So we move forward on that.
Yeah, the specific terminology is repair, replacement in kind to match the existing.
And does that have an impact on the neighborhood at all? If there are historic bridges in the neighborhood, does that then have an impact on what kind of development can happen in the neighborhood? Does the developer have to architecturally be a little more cognizant of the fact that they're within a historic bridge area?
Yes, that is correct. In a lot of cases, our trucks are getting taller, so they might have to raise it, but it has to be constructed, again, like material. And we would review that when it comes to,
Deborah, were you asking about homeowners?
Yeah.
I'm asking about developers. If a developer buys a big property near a historic bridge, does their architect then have to take into consideration for its design of that development that there are historic bridges in
Oh,
the
I get what
city?
you're saying. At this time, no. The district would have to be designated, or if that house chose to be self-designated. So, you know, we're working on all those pieces, but no, as you described it, at this point, a developer, as long as it's not the land which the bridge,
Okay,
is sets on.
Yeah, to just further clarify, the district designation under the ordinance is literally just the bounds of the structure and the bridge itself. Does not include any offsite properties.
And Graham, the land around, right, also for growth or expansion, right? So they own a certain
Yes, the right of way
percent
area.
land around those.
But it's only land currently owned by New Jersey Transit.
Yes. And I think, do we own some of the bridges? I'm not sure. I'd have to, we did that report some time ago. I'd have to go back. There's several of them, so I can't recall if we own one or two or not. I'm not sure. Okay.
So I read it,
Well, you just recently read it?
I read it this afternoon.
Okay. Excellent. You
I
can
just-
answer all your
No,
questions.
no, I don't know the answer to that question. I just discovered that I didn't realize precast concrete was historic, but anyway. I want, there's one.
Post-cast concrete, that's not historic.
Okay, yeah, but apparently one of them, but I think there's an inconsistency. The one that's the key contributing one, like, it wasn't my favorite bridge, so. But one of it's actually my least favorite bridge. The one on, the number 6 in the report was listed as key contributing, which is the railroad bridge over Main Street, because it was supposedly the first use of precast concrete in a bridge of that design, and we're listing it as the one that's over the Railway River. So the
Where-
ordinance lists number 7 as the key
Okay.
contributing, but the report from the consultants
Number
lists number 6.
Number 6,
Yeah,
okay.
it's key contributing.
So that could be a recommendation back to the governing body to correct.
Well, I think it just needs to be corrected.
Yeah,
That's my only
correct.
comment.
I can
My comment about-
reconcile that.
To reconcile that.
Yeah. Just make sure that I think it's inconsistent, I think that,
That's-
because they spoke specifically about that one having
Mhm.
multiple, the first use of concrete in this particular fashion, I'm not an engineer. so
I haven't read it in a while too, but I thought the one that was key contributing was the one over Morris Turnpike by Benihana.
No, it's not, I'm sorry.
It's actually by age, you know, key contributing what it represented at the time of when it was built. So remember, it can be still a contributing, it might not be a key contributing.
Maybe that's what.
Yeah, the one about Main Street is just, was a first use of concrete in this particular fashion. Everything else they said, well, this is not special relative to all the other bridges around, but the one over Main Street near the middle school apparently is, even though it's probably the least attractive one, I think, but.
And unfortunately, anything over a certain age, and in this case, the bridge is over 50 years old, we have to look at each and every one of them. And if it was the first of its kind, then of course, that would be a key contributing bridge. I know. We're over 50 years old doesn't seem like very old, does it?
I prefer that not be termed historic.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I hope that answered, yeah, I didn't mean to.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Okay, so I guess if first with the Mount Zion AME Church, I don't think there's any, well, I'll leave it to the board to address whether it's not inconsistent, and if so, we can have a motion second and roll call vote to adopt that resolution. It seems as if we have at least one with respect to the thematic railroad bridges. One recommendation perhaps we're gonna make as far as reconciliation, check and reconcile the 6 versus 7 distinction. But Mr. Chairman?
If we find it not, can we also adopt the resolution in the same motion?
Yeah, that's why we
Okay.
do it this way, it's all one fell swoop.
Excellent, so I will make a motion to find ordinance 2754-126. Historic designation of the Mount Zion AME Church on 54 Church Street, block 1103, lot 7, not inconsistent with the master plan, and to adopt the resolution as Steve has stated previously. Do I have a second? Roll call vote, please.
Jonathan Baxter,
Yes.
Allison Campfield,
Yes.
Michael Cohen,
Yes.
Deborah Nevis,
Yes.
Michael Zion,
Yes.
Sergey Sisto,
Yes.
Chair Gaston Hopper.
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Would anybody like to make a motion for the second one?
For appropriate language. I don't have the ordinance number.
Oh.
Sorry, which one?
2755.
Okay. So I make a motion finding that ordinance number 275526 designating bridges associated with the Morrison, Essex, Old Man, Delaware, Lackawanna and Western Railroad as a thematic historic district pursuant to the historic preservation ordinance of the Township of Milburn is not inconsistent with the town master plan.
And would you like to have that motion include the reconciliation of the 6 versus 7?
Yes, this motion includes the reconciliation of the key
Contributing.
contributing being number 6 instead of number 7.
Second,
Second.
roll call vote, please.
Jonathan Baxter,
Yes.
Allison Campfield,
Yes.
Michael Cohen,
Yes.
Deborah Nevis,
Yes.
Michael Zion,
Yes.
Sergey Sisto,
Yes.
Chair Gaston Hopper.
Yes. And motion passes unanimously. Okay, on to our applications for the evening. We have application 26-005, preliminary and final minor site plan approval for Canoe Country Club, 1108 Morris Turnpike, lot 5304, and lot 1. We have representation for the applicant.
Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Hillary Alls of Dempsey and Sheehan on behalf of the applicant, Newburgh Country Club. The subject property is located at 1108 Morris Turnpike and is identified as block 5304 lot 1 in Milburn Township and block 901 lot 1 in the city of Summit. All of the improvements proposed as part of this application are located entirely in the Milburn Township portion of the property in the Conservation Recreation Zone. The applicant is seeking minor site plan approval to revitalize and modernize the club's existing pool amenity area, including modifications and expansion of the existing pools and patios, associated grading improvements requiring retaining walls and fencing, and replacement of the existing pool equipment building. The existing equipment building is approximately 250 square feet and will be slightly relocated and replaced by a modest 656 square foot structure designed to better serve the operational needs of the pool facility. Importantly, this application requires no variance relief. The proposed improvements fully comply with the township's zoning requirements. The only relief requested consists of submission checklist waivers, which Mr. Smith will address during his testimony, and which pertain to information that's either not applicable or unnecessary for the board's review of this straightforward application. Kyle Smith of Dynamic Engineering is here to present the application this evening, and in addition, Albert Costantini is here on behalf of Newburgh Country Club to answer any operational questions that the board may have. This application represents a reasonable and fully compliant enhancement of an existing recreational amenity and does not involve any expansion or change in the property's principal use. The proposed improvements will enhance the functionality, safety, aesthetics, and overall user experience of the pool area while remaining consistent with the conservation recreation zone and the property's longstanding private club recreation use. We appreciate the board's consideration and are prepared to proceed with Mr. Smith's testimony.
Please. Oh, sorry.
Actually, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick predicate
Yes.
issue, that as always, notice for jurisdictional purposes. I did review the content of the notice and found it to be sufficient, as well as it being timely served and published. Served on May 21, published also on May 21. Both at least 10 days prior to this evening, so the board does have jurisdiction to hear and decide the case based on proper notice being provided. And with the chair's permission, I'm happy to swear in all male two, I guess, potential witnesses. Can't hurt to swear them in if they don't testify. I promise it doesn't hurt, and our board professionals as well, Mr. Chairman. So with the permission, if you'll all raise your right hand, do all of you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you all four, and back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Perfect.
Please
Mr.
wait
Smith?
first with this.
Not here, you know, I can hand out, if you wanna go through, your qualifications.
Touch.
Albert, okay. Follow behind you. Yes. Okay. Basically what was on the phone.
Oh.
You just wanna do your
Okay,
qualifications.
yeah, so I'm Kyle Smith, 1904 Main Street, in Lake Como, New Jersey, 07709. I'm a licensed professional engineer here in the state of New Jersey. I've been practicing civil engineering for over 18 years. Licensed and my license is currently extending. I'm a principal at Dynamic Engineering. I've been at Dynamic Engineering for just less than 4 years now. Prior to my experience at Dynamic Engineering, I worked at a consulting engineering firm, mainly working on the public sector. So I work for municipalities, boards, and utility authorities. And I've been currently working on the private land development project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. We, on your credentials and, and we accept you as a architect,
Civil
civil engineer, civil engineer.
Perfect, and can you just go through for the board what steps you took to prepare for your testimony tonight?
Yeah, so first I conferred with the principals at the Beach Country Club, just to really understand the overall scope of the project. Then met with the project team, which included an architect, and we really drove into the details of the work. From that, I reviewed and studied the applicable zoning ordinances and provisions within the township of Milburn, and applied that to this specific site. And then based on all the above, prepared a set of site plans and a stormwater management report for this proposed school improvements project here at Milburn Township.
Excellent, and the applicant is requesting certain checklist waivers, can you go through those waivers for the board?
Absolutely. So we are requesting a waiver for B3, the steep slope identification and disturbance pursuant to DRZ 608.6, the topographic survey. Based on inspection of the site, the disturbance is all within a previously disturbed area. We're also requesting a waiver for B6I, show all existing principal and accessory structures, curbs, driveways, water bodies, and wooded areas within 100 feet of the site. The application is really limited to the pool filter building and the immediately surrounding area. As you can see on the aerial overview, which is aerial exhibit A1. Basically, the site is fully developed. It's an existing golf course with various amenities, and we're not increasing the scope of that work. The area of improvement is very small compared to the overall site, and none of the proposed improvements are within 100 feet of any use that is not the applicant's country club use. And our plan set shows the areas that are being impacted by the project. We're also requesting a waiver for C1, environmental impact statement, CGRZ 509. The site is fully developed and the improvements have no environmental impact on the site. The proposal is replacing the existing filter building and associated appurtenances around the pool. So with that, this is a waiver that has been granted previously for the site. We're also requesting a waiver for C5A, stormwater and environmental plan map survey, depicting environmentally constrained land on site, including where necessary floodplain areas, wetland buffers, stream and state open waters, steep slopes, and other areas specified in ordinance section 509.2. As previously stated, the site is fully developed, the improvements have no environmental impact on the site. What we're proposing here is replacing existing pools, patio area, and a pool filter building. We're also finally requesting a waiver for D2, steep slope disturbance variance, grading drainage plan with steep slope identification and disturbance via topographic survey pursuant to DRZ 608.6 and DRZ 608.7. Based on inspection of the site, all disturbance proposed on this project is within previously disturbed areas.
Perfect. So those are the checklists, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before we proceed with that, as to the formality of the checklist waivers, if I'm reading our friend Mr. Petto's completeness report number 1, May 8, page 2 correctly, it looks as if at least 4 of those 5 items that were just listed were recommended by him to be the waivers to be granted to advance to the board's hearing. But certainly we should hear from Mr. Petto to see if that's reconfirmed, but also if I heard the engineer correctly, there may have been one that was not on that list on page 2, the 4th of the 5.
Right, it's not there, but if you go through the rest of his completeness report
Might have been addressed.
in the checklist, it talks about
Mm.
waiver discussion.
Got it. Okay, so with that, that's a long-winded way, as always, of me saying maybe we should hear from Mr. Petto just to reconfirm before the board formally perhaps grants the checklist waiver request, so we can proceed with the hearing.
Yeah, I think, and happy to hear Mr. Smith review these for us, for the benefit of our testimony this evening. I think, regarding the existing and principal structures within 100 feet, obviously, as shown on the site is well contained within itself. There is no offsite features within 100 feet of the area of disturbance. So I certainly think that that is something that could be granted a waiver. With respect to the environmental impact statement, this is an existing developed location, they're just, modifying existing developed location, so I certainly understand that waiver as well, and I think that could be granted by the board. And then the steep slope, identification and disturbance area, and the steep slope plan, again, this is all previously disturbed area, it's not located in the steep slope area of the township, and then the last one, sorry, get the. Well, that's not.
C5A.
C5A, stormwater and environmental plan, map survey depicting environmentally constrained land.
Again, this
site.
is an existing developed area, so we concur with the waiver as well, but it's certainly up to the board's consideration.
Any questions from the board, or either the expert or Brad?
And just to be clear, this is so that we can proceed with the hearing. If at some point during the hearing or as a condition subsequent, if you think any of this information is necessary, I'm not suggesting it is, but it may, then this is only for purposes of proceeding with the hearing right now.
I will make a motion to grant the 5 waivers requested. Do I have a second?
Second.
Let me roll call.
No, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Please proceed.
Perfect, thank you. Using the plans that were filed with the board and the exhibits that you've prepared, can you describe the existing conditions and what is proposed as part of the site plan application?
Yeah, so starting with exhibit A1 here, which is the aerial plan exhibit. The project is located on the North Forks, which is located on the southernmost portion of the township. The property is bounded by, to the south by New State Highway 124 and 24, to the east by wooded areas and residential neighborhood, to the north by wooded areas and some commercial development along John F. Kennedy Parkway, and then to the west, it's bounded by commercial development, which we're building on. The existing condition, as previously stated, it's overall it's a golf course with various amenities associated with the club. So I'm gonna switch to.
But before we do, just for the record, since that's an exhibit, you may have mentioned it as A1, but we will mark it as
Perfect.
A1, because we know we have at least 2 more coming. And just to be clear, that was the aerial plan exhibit, not the aerial enlargement exhibit.
Correct. Speaking of the aerial enlargement exhibit, that we will put in as exhibit A2. So as you can see from the aerial Northern exhibit, the existing pool amenities area is staying in the same location. And that's in existing condition, 603.7 feet to the property line, to the state highway. So there's a significant distance from the pool amenity area to the highway there. The existing equipment garage building is approximately 428 feet to the nearest property line and approximately 460 feet to the nearest residence. This 250 square foot pool equipment garage building will be demolished as part of the project, in addition to the 2 existing pools, the fence, the stone retaining wall, concrete pavers, and sidewalks. So as part of the project, we are replacing that 250 square foot pool equipment building on the east side of the pool amenities area with, like as stated previously, a modest increase to a 656 square foot pool equipment building. This proposed pool equipment building is located 407.6 feet to the nearest property line and 439.4 feet to the nearest residence. We'll shift to exhibit A3, which is the site plan rendering. So this will better show the proposed improvements in a zoom view. But what you can see here is we're replacing the 2 existing pools with 2 proposed pools. One is a full-size pool, standard pool, and the other is a kids pool for the kids to play in. We're also providing other amenities. It's brick and concrete stamped pavers, 3D standing trellis. There's tables, chairs, lounge chairs, etc. Just what you'd expect around a pool area and what's currently existing out there. Details of the materials to be used for this area will be provided during the construction building phase. In addition, there's an existing fence we're taking down and retaining wall. We will be replacing that with a 6-foot high fence that'll be located here on the northeast side of the pool area. And that reduces to 4 feet as it extends down past the tees here, which is mimicking some of the existing conditions.
Sorry if I made you, that's not considered a front yard, no issues with 6-foot fencing in that location?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, because the front property line would be towards Morris, towards 24.
That some might refer, if there were one, they might refer to that as a quote unquote technical variance. Yeah, but it does not exist in this particular case, correct? I'm sorry, thank you.
Oh, no problem at all. The fence will include latching devices for the gate entrance to the pool area, which will be latched in accordance at all times when the pool is not attended, and that's in accordance with the Township Code Section 16-5A. The proposed vinyl fence will basically separate the pool area from the course area. In between the fence, there's going to be some landscaping on the outside of the fence, and then there's a minimum 3-foot gap between this fence and a retaining wall. That retaining wall is going to be less than 6 feet in height. And as such, based on this layout, no variance is required for this project. All the existing utilities will remain on site, and there just will be new connections to the proposed filter building for the pool equipment. Based on the proposed improvements, the impervious coverage for the site will increase by approximately 0.5 acres. An increase of greater than 0.25 acres of impervious coverage defines the project as a major development under NJDEP stormwater regulations. And as such, we have coordinated with the board engineer to confirm that this project is a major stormwater development. We've conferred about the design revisions required to the proposed stormwater infrastructure to address the groundwater recharge and quantity requirements, and we will comply with these revisions. As part of the demolition of the project, there's 7 trees that need to be removed. And as such, we are proposing to replace with 12 trees. And that's going to be replacing a location in coordination with the township's forester. A tree removal permit will be applied for and complied with for the project. The current landscaping plan includes 4 shade trees 9 ornamental trees, 82 evergreen shrubs, 163 deciduous shrubs, 43 ground cover shrubs, 154 perennials, and 756 ornamental grasses. We've coordinated with the township's forester, and we reviewed the design related to landscaping, and we are providing native and non-invasive species here. As it relates to lighting around the pool area, the existing lighting on the clubhouse and the pool building near the pool amenities area will remain in place. And they're going to be maintained, including the lights near the existing staircase. We are proposing a few uplights just within the landscaping areas, just for aesthetics. And they will be similar in nature to the architectural on the property. We have applied for a soil erosion and sediment control permit from the Hudson Essex Passaic Soil Conservation District. It's currently under review. But we are including additional safeguards that were requested per the Environmental Commission report, including silt fence at the downslope portions of all disturbed areas. I'm going to now go to the architectural plan, which was included with the filing. Just to show everybody what the pool equipment building really looks like.
And if you could for me and everyone else hopefully as well, just give us the last revised date on that. I'm assuming it's what was submitted with the application materials.
Yeah, this was an issue date, March 4th, 2026.
Thank you. No need to mark it separately as an exhibit. Just please refer to any, sheet numbers that appear on the architectural plans themselves if you're going from sheet to sheet.
Okay, yeah, I just have sheet number A1, which is the filter room. And as previously discussed, the existing 250 square foot building will now be slightly shifted in location and will be 656 square feet to accommodate the proposed pool equipment for the two pools. This additional 406 square feet of building space is what triggered us coming to the board for a minor site plan review. As you can see from the plan, these different elevation drawings, based on the topography, the building really not going to be visible from a distance. And that's just based on the grades here. It's really hidden by the land around it. So with that, there was the township fire official had some comments related to the pool building, and we will comply with all of the comments. The construction of the building will require building permits to confirm all of the lighting and safety requirements by the township permit.
Perfect. I think that you addressed a lot of the administrative comments in your testimony, but if there are any other ones, I know that you did review all of the administrative comments. Can you just touch on any ones that maybe you have not discussed already, or maybe
Yeah,
you feel like
yes,
you've done
no,
something?
yeah, so I prepared letter responses to those comments, the letters dated May 20th, 2026 and May 28th, 2026. And this was noting that we'll make some revisions to our plans in accordance with the comments from the board's professionals. That includes a complete report, a PRC memo, the forester report, fire officials report, and the board engineer's report. I also spoke with the board engineer regarding the May 28th, 2026 letter that we sent, and we will adjust some of the landscaping to provide access for maintenance purposes, and that's around the inlets within the pool amenities area. In addition, we received the planner's report, and we understand the additional procedural and technical comments through that report. We also received the Environmental Commission's report, and note that the building materials will be submitted as part of the construction process. So overall, our intention here is to comply with the recommendations raised by the board professional.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Smith? We have one question for you. The building materials, so the Environmental Commission recommended that they be environmentally friendly, or is?
That's correct, yeah,
Are
so
they-
as part of that's a part of their review, they had some requests, and that'll be reviewed as part of like the building permit application process.
Thank you. Do our experts have any questions for Mr. Smith?
I have no questions. We did have a meeting on this past Monday to go over the review comments. And I'm satisfied that they will address all of the comments and that those comments can be a condition of any approval of this board. No issue with that.
So we got a will comply on 1 through 16 unless and until we hear any objection from the applicant. Hearing
Is
none.
that, if you wanna just, I would say we will comply based on the letters that were whatever's in the
Based on our
letters that were
response letters.
submitted, that is what we are
And
agreeing to,
subject to the review and approval of our engineers.
correct,
Boards it.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that's satisfactory.
Okay.
No further questions.
Yeah, I know you covered a lot of the reports. I just wanted to be fastidious and make sure we got all of them. First of all, there was a recent approval unrelated, I guess, to this particular one, with respect to tennis pickleball courts, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a carried forward, but, so I guess, normally I would say, all prior approval conditions, remain. Actually, we'll still say that. Not, to the extent not inconsistent, with this approval, should the board approve this application. Acceptable?
Yes.
Thank you. The engineer's memo, May 21 was covered. The fire officials memo, we're to understand in full, May 15, 2026, 1 through 14, all conditions will comply.
Again, it's whatever is in those two, letters that have been submitted, talk about all of these reports and exactly what is going to be done. But Kyle, if you can just confirm.
Well, I would just ask that if any of them are, no, we won't comply, or a significant difference from
No,
what was requested by the fire official, please let us know.
No, they're all acknowledged and will comply.
Well, thank you. I know there was I guess no concern expressed from the traffic bureau of the police department, so
correct.
clearly you'll comply with that one.
Yes.
The forester, May 21, I believe you indicated that you'll comply. There's a May 21 and a May 13, they look to be the same to me again.
Yeah, so we responded to the May 13th.
You're fine? Okay, I think the May 21 may have just been it looks like it was redone with a new date, maybe because you submitted some revised plans in the interim, but are you complying with the May 13, which is the same as the May 21, as far as the comments? And there was one that was a true shade tree, generally develops a broad canopy. I think there was
something about their species as well.
Yeah, so the first comment speaks about shade trees and that, what they should typically carry, and then we responded with, the nature of the pool area you don't want.
right, a shade tree, right, I made a note of that. Actually.
Yeah, so.
So I guess that's not really
It's not a will comply, I think it's for to coordinate with the,
Right.
yeah, with.
We'll coordinate with the forester.
right, the issue of shade, trees over the pool, some people may want sun, I think.
Yes.
Okay, but the item 2 out of the 2 on the forester's report, is that a will comply?
That is we provided additional information for the forester's review. But we will work it out, we will address. any
Subject to the
concerns.
forester's review.
Correct, yeah.
Correct.
Thank you.
Is that where she talks about non-native species?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't wanna, the forester will address that.
No, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah. I was about to say what I anticipate the response to be, but I should not do that. And then the environmental commission report had 1, 2, 3, 4 general recommendations: stormwater management, trees, landscaping, erosion, and building materials. Just to be clear, because there'll be a resolution, regardless of what the determination of the board is, there'll be a resolution memorializing it. So, and if it's approval, it's going to address all the conditions. So, are we both stipulating to all 4 as is, or what are we doing specific?
It's right here.
So there were recommendations by the environmental commission, Yep, and I think we complied with stormwater management based off of our report that was provided. Trees and landscaping, we provided information on the trees to be removed, the proposed plantings. And they asked for them to be reviewed for compatibility, we'll comply. Erosion, as stated in the testimony, will comply, and building materials we will be submitting as part of the building permit application process.
And they will be energy efficient materials that can be sourced from renewable resources used, and materials that are durable and longer lasting. As
I'm not
recommended.
sure if that's, I think you'll do the best you can
Correct.
to meet the intent of what they're looking
Sure.
for, but I don't, I
And
don't,
some of it is perhaps somewhat subjective or difficult to quantify.
right.
So, but at least the spirit and intent of it will be sought to be applied.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry to be so fastidious, but not sorry. I'll draft the resolutions. We want to make sure, and of course, the board and the public want to know exactly what it's approved, what's being approved, and what the conditions. And we are and you're good on your memo? And I think that covers it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I had a question. So the existing pools are going to be demoed.
Correct.
So what sorts of precautions do you take to ensure that there's no hazardous material leaching into, the land and that's there?
The material, I'm gonna have
Like
to
the
check on the
concrete
existing
or
materials of the, it's a
of the
concrete
pools.
pool.
Con-
Yeah, it's a
concrete.
concrete pools, so that the concrete will be removed and disposed of in accordance with DEP regulations.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, did you, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm just noticing, maybe it was addressed earlier, but in our planners, a very detailed, there's always June 1 report. There was a question with the pool gate specifications. Were you able to confirm that the gates would be equipped with approved latching devices and otherwise pool compliant?
Yes.
Okay. If you did it out loud, I missed it. My apologies.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
Any other questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public? So I do not hear any questions from the public. I believe you're excused, Mr. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Oh, do you have another expert witness?
I do not.
Okay.
Just had a very brief summation and that's it. The testimony this evening demonstrates that this is a straightforward application to improve and modernize the existing pool amenity that has long been part of Kingbrook Country Club. The proposed improvements will enhance the functionality, appearance, and operation of the pool area for the benefit of the club members while maintaining the property's existing recreational use. The application requires no variances. The proposed improvements comply with the township's zoning and site plan requirements, and the only relief that had been requested were the limited checklist waivers. These improvements are an investment in an existing amenity that will allow the club to better serve its members for years to come and represent a reasonable modernization that does not involve any expansion of or change to the property's principal use. The proposed improvements will enhance, again, the functionality, safety, and appearance of the pool area while remaining consistent with the conservation recreation zone and the property's longstanding private club recreational use. For those reasons, we respectfully request that the board grant the minor site plan approval. And thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Very much. Does anybody want to discuss the application? Any final questions? No? All good?
If it helps, Mr. Chairman, it's minor site plan approval, as I understand it, fully conforming, no variances, and the checklist waivers were already approved. And if it's an approval, and a motion for such, I'll assume, unless you tell me otherwise, that it is with all the conditions stipulated to fire on behalf of the applicant, as we went through them in detail with respect to all the reports. And I believe the tree removal and replacement was part of the environmental, part of the report as well. But there was clearly a representation made, 7 trees removed, replaced with 12 per the foresters. So we will not lose that one, nor will we lose any of the other conditions. So it is a motion to grant the approval. I'll assume it's with all those conditions.
Would anybody like to make a motion, as Steve has stated? All right, I will make a motion to approve the application as noted by Steve. Would I have a second? Second. Roll call vote, please.
Jonathan Baxter,
Yes.
Allison Campfield,
Yes.
Michael Cohen,
Yes.
Deborah Nevis,
Yes.
Michael Zion,
Yes.
Sergio Sisto,
Yes.
Chair Gaston Hopper.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up on our agenda is the environmental commission presentation. And I believe it's gonna be over Zoom. Yes. It's okay, right? No more.
There would be our agenda is, yeah, after this, oh, this is the old one. Oh, no, you're here, yeah. After this presentation, it's the executive session.
You want me to take the presentation down?
If it's
Up to you.
on Zoom, it's being recorded.
It is, yeah.
I mean, I'll leave it to the chair to make that the executive determination, but I don't see why we would.
No, you're okay, Mr. Bishop. Go enjoy the game.
There you go.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't need me any further, I will excuse myself.
Great. Thank you very
I'm not
much.
gonna watch the game.
No.
And I-
Oh, he was there.
He was there,
Yeah,
but.
yeah, he's there.
Okay,
There he
okay,
is.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm leaving.
We're not eating anymore.
It's nice, if anybody's watching from home, they can have the game on and listen to me all at the same time.
Can you do that?
Right.
Hello, I'm Jude Kwong from the Melbourne Environmental Commission. And also remotely, we have Thomas Harper from Princeton Hydro.
Hello.
Which, hey, Thomas?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep. We can hear you very well.
And can you see my screen as well?
Yes, we can.
Great.
We're good. Yes. So we're here to present the Melbourne Environmental Resources Inventory that took us about 2 years to update. And the last time it was done 2014, so 12 years. I think it was only 10 to 12 years to update it. So this was a group effort that took Princeton Hydro, Melbourne Environmental Commission, and all the members participated, reviewed, and drafted, and now here we presenting it, and hopefully we get adopted tonight. The next slide.
Okay, sure. I guess I assume Jude is not making it. Do you want me to just cover?
Yeah, just forward it if you can.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, so, here, so what is ERI, Environmental Resource Inventory? So it's a statutory planning document, by the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law. It's a compilation of text, tables, maps, and other visual information. I think it's mostly important in this version. That's a lot of interactive information there that provides the baseline for documentation for measuring and evaluating resources that protect issues. That it's objective index and description of features and their functions rather than an interpretation of recommendations. So again, it's just presenting the facts, the resources, not any interpretation. The importance of an ERI, there is an important tool that's, I'm not going to read the full thing. I think you can read it for the thing, well, for our time. So the last time it was adopted in 2014, and a lot of data, even that time was used like 10 years behind. So as we reviewed it with, many data used there was like 20 years old, so it's really important to update it. And also that things changed, like the climate and flooding issues, land uses, all those things are change that needs to be updated. And also it's an environmental stewardship that we want to create a snapshot that every 10, 12 years. So just like reviewing this one, that we went back several versions to compare that how the land use, the population, and so on and so forth got changed in the last 20, 30 years. Next one. Yep. Okay. And the very important thing here is the old one is the old PDF document. It's pretty much a reference resources. It's very difficult to look up for something, and the new one is interactive that we also plan to continue to update it as new data becomes available. Then Thomas is going to show you how to use it. So basically it's interactive tools, and there are a lot of interactive maps and things that you can use for the planning purposes and other things, and like public education as well. Let's go to the next one.
So
Yep.
if I could just.
Okay, I think this one is just a quick movie, right? So you
Oh,
probably
well,
can-
actually, I don't know if you can see can you see my mouse moving right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Yes, I
so
can.
yeah, that was just a placeholder in case this didn't work.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
this
in
is.
the-
uh,
Go ahead. Yeah,
This
take
is
it away.
this is the presentation of the new ERI. It comes through in the form of basically a website. So you'll be able to link to it either through a URL or a QR code for people. You can put it on little posters and stuff like that, and people can scan it. It's organized by discrete sections, which is usually pretty typical for these sorts of reports. So by theme. So for example, if you wanted to just quickly read about waters and wetlands, you could just jump right to that section, and then within there, you can jump around to different subsections. Where this really differs, this format, where the benefits come from is a lot of like linking out and interactive mapping. So in some ways, it can even be used as a bit of a screening tool. So if I wanted to look at a particular site, I can go down to this wetlands map. It's running a little slow just because I'm sharing my screen, but all the data will be fully presented at the township level, but then also you can use this and fully just zoom in right to the site level. I can also go look for a site, so I can look for the Millburn Environmental, Millburn Education Center. So I can see, I can look at a particular address and then see what resources are around it, and then even click there and get some details on the data there. So that's like just some example of where this really shines, and this applies to every section, not just waters and wetlands. So moving back on.
And the map is a lot more accurate than a typical Google map.
Yeah, of course, yes. So just to go over some key snapshots and highlights of actually digging into the data, starting off with demographics. So Millburn, since the census was first being tracked, it spent a long time just precipitously growing up to the 1970s, dropped off a little bit. And since then, since 1990, has been growing back steadily. At this point, it's fairly stable, where most of the changes have been observed since the sort of last check-in is demographically and by age. There's a lot more growing diversity in the community and different age breakdowns. So here's just some graphics showing the age structure. If you're not familiar with these sorts of graphics, basically the young population's at the bottom, older is at the top. In this case, you can see what it's described as bimodal, meaning that you have a somewhat large young population, somewhat large middle-aged population, and then a smaller in-between population.
Right. Just quickly here that the younger population actually shrunk, then the middle age moved up 10 years. Reference.
People having that.
And the school age population also shrunk a little bit.
Yeah, so where this sort of intersects with environmental resources is a lot of, it has to do a lot with management. So these sorts of populations interact with the landscape a lot differently. For young populations, things like environmental education programs become important, and for older populations, things like accessibility become important. So that's sort of where this information intersects with the ERI. Moving on to land use, again, this is another area where Millburn is relatively stable. It's relatively built out, so we didn't see much change here. The mapping itself is a little bit more accurate. But for the most part, Millburn is a largely residential landscape. It's almost 50% residential. After that, the second most common land feature is forest. That's mostly contained, obviously, to the South Mount Reservation. So those
Pause over here one little bit, that the land use, the only thing we found that in differences about land use is primarily due to that map accuracy change. So the map is much finer resolution, much more accurate, so that there's some of the percentages start to shift a little bit, but really there's not much of a material changes there. Go ahead, Thomas.
And so yeah, beyond that, for the most part, a lot of your green space is already contained to already preserved lands. There's not too much opportunity for that green space to be lost to development, except for sort of smaller, already fragmented areas. So at that sort of stage of a township, it becomes important about like preservation and enhancement of existing areas. Additionally, in the new ERI, we did enhance the sort of water resources section. The 2014 version was a bit limited. It was mostly descriptive, had very limited mapping. So we did incorporate some detailed watershed mapping, and also added some more flood mapping and discussions of flooding. We've updated the flooding to the most recent FEMA studies, which in this case would be from September 2020. Added a bit more information about post-IDA conditions. And another thing that we couldn't add now because it doesn't exist, but something that could be added to the future is future MS4 requirements have a lot of mapping components. And since we already now have this interactive mapping component to the ERI, those can sort of be married together to create an enhanced product.
Yeah, could be another layer, have the water management inventory into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all uses the same tech on the back end.
That's why it helps out.
We've also improved the mapping for sort of the most major regulated resource areas, things like forests, wetlands, riparian buffer, teeny habitat, the things that usually get flagged on a major project and interact with state regulations. And also incorporated a somewhat new data set called the Connecting Habitats Across New Jersey. This was developed after the publication of your last ERI. It's somewhat related to T&E species mapping. It has to do with how wildlife is able to move across the landscape and use it as a whole. We added this mostly because we think it's important that since Millburn is built out and a lot of your areas are sort of, the focus becomes enhancement and preservation, this is a good tool for figuring out where those priorities are. The key thing is here about sort of mapping where constraints are related to like roads, things like culverts, where culverts are blocking passage of fish and wildlife. And there's all sorts of sort of modern programs and techniques to encourage wildlife movement across the landscape to enhance these existing areas. Another thing that we've incorporated, a sort of co-benefit, is your recent tree keeper inventory mapping. We were able to sort of pull that same mapping data, pull it into the ERI. So now that's also fully interactive, and that's something that can be continually updated as your tree keeper program gets updated. And we've also added a pretty
I was just finished in October last year, so it's incorporated right in time.
And then we also added a pretty enhanced the discussion of climate change, obviously, since that is a big topic and there's a lot more state efforts and laws around that issue. So we tried to give a good sort of publicly accessible summary to climate change, going over the latest scientific report on climate change for New Jersey, which is what the state is using for a lot of their regulatory revisions, and just tried to add
just for those who could not see the previous one, this is the temperature, this is the rainfall.
Yes. Yeah, I can, if you're interested, I can go a bit into the specifics. So most of these predictions are at the state level. There's somewhat of a difference between North and South Jersey, but for the most part, they're at the state level. So current predictions have that by 2050, regardless of the emission scenario, we're going to see between an average of 1 and 6 degree increase in New Jersey. And by 2100, that's going to vary depending on if we're in a bit of a higher emission scenario or a lower. And that's going to predict to be between 3 and 9 or 6 to 13. what this ends up leading to is going to be an increase of extreme heat and extreme precipitation. So the prediction is a pretty sizable increase of max of heat days, extreme heat days, days where temperatures are greater than 95 degrees. And that doesn't sound high, but having a lot of those stressor days can lead to a lot of morbidities, especially if power grids get stressed and you have power outages. Where it comes to precipitation, that becomes a bit more unpredictable just because of weather dynamics. Right now, we're expecting the predictions are between a 2.3 inch and 3.5 inch increase through the 2080s. And where that sort of intersects with a township like Millburn is sort of pluvial flooding and older stormwater systems that were designed with sort of older storms in mind. So those are kind of the big highlights out of the climate change report for Millburn. So that's pretty much the big highlights right now. The main benefits of this format, this change in format, is its public accessibility, it's more intuitive, and it sort of brings more interactive direct mapping to a lot more people without the sort of technical burden on them. We've implemented this similarly with other townships, and they've been able to incorporate it in a lot of different ways with site review and even just sort of public engagement. And compared to the 2014, we tried to make the languages a little bit more accessible too. We didn't take away from the analysis, just tried to give it a little bit more accessible touchstones for the public to tie into it. So we're hoping that this can serve as a stronger basis for master plan updates, ordinance review, grant applications, and we're also hoping that it becomes a bit of a living document where the data can be continually updated rather than like every decade, and that we can continually reference it and improve it over time. So here's the link to the digital ERI, or here's a QR code you can scan, and I'm happy to answer any immediate questions you might have.
Sure, I've got one. You just said it can be continually updated. Does that mean this is a living document and if we're using it to prepare for reference for the master plan, but then we're adding to it? I like the idea of it. I just don't know how that works.
Yes, yes and no. So we do want to take a snapshot of this. So when we compare 10 years from now, we know what we're comparing with. But there will be a version that continues to update. So, let's say there's a new temperature data, or as the fire stations are installing all these monitoring systems. So we'll have more local data. Yeah, we will adapt those into the data set, but we also want to have a snapshot. So in the future, when we do some historical comparisons, we have a snapshot.
I have a question. You said it's being updated. Who's updating?
Okay, so that's why we have been working with the township try to host this over here, so we have the full ownership. So the URL is showing probably will change as we adopted by the town. Then we will probably repost the new URL, and whatever the data is available that the EC or the planning board or whoever found more information that should be incorporated, and we will do so. So this will be continue get this update.
Yeah, to expand upon what Judy's referencing is this system is developed using ArcGIS Story Map. It's a cloud-based solution provided by ESRI, which is a mapping company. They're kind of the gold standard for GIS mapping. We have developed the interactive zoning map that you all have here for the township on the exact same platform. So there's interest in the township to manage its own system now and pull both of those components in and host it as the township entity, so you can add data and do more to that system. So that's a conversation that Judy's alluding to that we're kind of having with the administrator right now to kind of set that system up so that all of these things can live together. And it'll be great for the zoning information to talk to this environmental resource group too. So we have all these things kind of overlaid, and we kind of start to see those relationships.
Right. So for example, the Open Space Fund wants to see some of the maps before they approve something. So they already start using that.
Mm-hmm. How frequently do you update the maps? Developer updates the maps? Is there a cadence?
I don't think the base maps will be updated that much, but some of the layers may have, like an MS4, if that becomes available, we will incorporate into that, or, like the tree maps or became available October last year, so we incorporated it into the system. If there are any other things becomes available or, more accurate front map or whatever, then we will incorporate those. But the base map, the digital elevation models, those I don't think will be changing that much.
Outside of preference, of course. So we opted for a lot of the base mapping to go with sort of simplistic base maps to highlight the data layers. But if for some reason the township prefers a sort of like an imagery base map, for example, that is possible.
Yeah.
Does this system project changing flood zones, given climate change? I mean, what our flood zones will look like, say,
It does
10, 20
not
years?
project or, as we mentioned before, it's an index system. We're just showing what it is, what has been. We're not projecting anything to the future other than, the temperature we mentioned a little bit, but other things we're not projecting, if the flood will change or shift on to different areas. No.
So you are projecting temperature, what your temperature you said is gonna be like 2100. That's gonna change the flood zones in the town, right? But you,
Correct, that may happen, but some of the main focus is on existing data. It's much less on projecting or interpreting or, doing that type of work. This is much more on just presenting what it is now, what it has been.
Give it 10 years.
So it is worth noting that DP in their floodplain rules are considering projected floodplains. So the current New Jersey flood hazard area is essentially an attempt to match what they expect the 2100 floodplain to be per the same climate report that we are citing in this report.
Right, that's already in there. That's already in.
Yeah, so the New Jersey FHA is already kind of building in climate change.
Yeah.
Can I make a point on the climate change? This is all really good, but I do think there's a couple of weaknesses that maybe if it's a living document, we can fix those.
Sure.
On the climate change first slide, the precipitation, I don't think that trend's significant. That looks almost flat to me. And
Can you
the
bring
variance is very high.
Can you bring to Thomas? Can you bring to that slide?
Yes, one moment.
You've got like it as a quarter of an inch per decade in there. The average,
You're talking
the
about
average
the
is around 50 inches.
You're talking about the rainfall.
I'm talking about the rainfall, the bottom right one, yeah,
This one,
yeah.
this one.
And so I think it's worth pointing out that, if you put a confidence interval on that.
On this
slope
line?
On the blue line.
Yeah. So
this
this
would include zero.
Right. So if you go back onto the slides, we did in the text, we did point out the peaks and valleys goes up and down a lot. So the regression, the fit
I
line looks
understand
like
what variance
almost.
is, yes, but the
Yeah.
fit there
Yeah.
is not significant, I'm sure. If you actually calculate that, the confidence interval includes zero for that slope. And that's okay, I mean, it just
That's,
means that.
again,
but-
we're not trying to interpreting more as more of
No, but you
presenting.
are interpreting on the left, you're saying increased rainfall intensity, which actually doesn't directly relate to that graph. That graph's average rainfall per.
The
year.
intensity does.
This is observed
Yes.
rainfall
The peak
through.
troughs aren't what people normally talk about with rainfall. So they mean like storms are stronger.
Mhm.
That's the argument people have, is they say, well, if the rainfall may not be increasing, but the storms may be intensifying, right?
Mhm.
So those peaks.
We
and
do
troughs-
include a discussion on that, on the concept of flashier events.
Yes.
In the same, because the sort of statewide report discusses that. And just for the record, this graph is historical observation, and we do also make note that the sort of precipitation projections are a lot statistically weaker. We didn't do our own sort of statistical analysis. We're just reporting, re-reporting basically what the state is relying on.
Right, I'm just saying that the evidence as presented and the claim of increased rainfall intensity is not supported, right? That's all. This graph doesn't support that claim. Not really. And the second one is on the next slide, the high emission scenario, RCP 8.5. That's been changed right now. It's been too extreme for a long time. And now the various climate authorities are moving to a more realistic high emission scenario. It's higher than what we have right now. But the trend that we're on is not going to match the RCP 8.5 out to 2100 with any probability at all. So I think for the purpose of keeping this as a live document, when that change is made by the IPCC, I would change
Yep.
that RCP 8.5 to whatever it's going to be called, maybe
Yes.
6.5 or whatever it is, but it will change those extremes for the high emission scenario.
Yeah, I believe that the state study, because that's also sort of a living document intended to be updated, and I think they're also changing their RCP scenario. So I would recommend that this report sort of stay in line with the state, since they're also basing a lot of their regulations on it.
Yeah. As we also in the narrative, so we mentioned that there is really no, the county level, town level of temperature and, rainfall maybe varies a little bit, but majority of them pretty much just using the state level data.
Question on, what were the criteria used to pick out what certain things, right, I don't know how to say this properly. Like, there were certain wetlands picked out, but we had one at a previous application just recently that talked about wetlands, but it was outside the Fox Hill Reserve, but it was literally next to it. It's not on the map, and it is identified as a wetland. Why was that one not included? And then also on the urban forest, the chart of all the trees. What were the criteria for which trees you picked up? There are a lot more trees, it's just certain ones.
Right, I think, again, this is from the forester, that the tree keeper that they did the map last year, so we're just incorporating that. I think she's saying the private property trees are not in there, the trees documented are town trees.
These are within the town right away.
Yeah.
That tree keeper is town on the trees also.
So then that's not right, because there's a tree in my neighbor's front yard, it's a huge maple tree, not in the right of way. And it's listed on that map, and there's also maybe the one my other neighbor is, but I don't know, I was just
Yeah,
wondering.
but that's almost like a different project if we want to document all the private property trees.
Okay, and then as far as what the little tributaries or.
Yeah, Thomas, I think that's the wetland map is what you got from the state.
Yes, what we have presented here is statewide wetland mapping. The state also openly acknowledges that at the local level, there can always be pocket wetlands and smaller wetland areas that their mapping might miss, but that's sort of what they put out as a sort of screening tool for statewide analysis. If you do have any sort of local wetland mapping, of course, this system can be updated with that information.
Right, and also the state, somewhere in the document mentioned that since they changed the flood level classification, they have not done a full survey based on the new law. So that's definitely could be possible that their pockets are not matching after the standards is changed, after the standard changed, that not all the surveys are updated.
Yeah, the next iteration of New Jersey wetland mapping, if I had to speculate, should come out around between now and 2030-ish. So that would be the sort of next time I would assume they would incorporate the change in mapping.
Yeah, okay, so change and wait, say that one more time. It will, the local surveys will be done by the next change in mapping?
So the state has an ongoing statewide land cover mapping effort, and that's the part where they map wetlands across the state. And so if they change standards of how they map wetlands, it won't be reflective until their next iteration, which I assume should be released around 2030. It's usually on a 5-year cycle. It's like right now they have 2020 mapping that was released in 2025. So I imagine they'll release 2025 mapping in 2030.
Okay, and as we go through these in the planning board, is there any way that we can update that information with the stuff that we received? We dealt with another property, 165 Old Short Hills Road, where there's a little brook and riparian zone, everything that's not listed on that map either.
If there were, it would be with New Jersey DEP. I could try to find out if there's a specific office for that sort of thing. I don't know if that's a sort of program that they have to be able to take local information like that, or if their sort of programs are at the state level and they don't really do that.
Right, very often that the project will do their own survey and provide the updated data. So like the high school turf field, that they did the research found there was no updated mapping, and they did their own mapping and got certified by the state. It doesn't match with the new rules, regulations, whatever. So that's probably the situation for many other pockets, that the front level is raised, but the mappings are not. There's no updated map until, like Thomas said, probably to
Okay.
2030 or whatever.
So we don't have the ability to update it, it's gonna lie more so with the state. Okay, understood.
For us, there is no funding here to do any field work. We're basically just collecting data, presenting the data. There's no money to, do the water quality test or soil test or the survey, things like that.
But that is technically feasible. Like now that you have the system, if you have staff and technology to run it, then like that sort of thing can be implemented.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do.
Sure.
Just that brought up a very good point. So is there grant funding for things like this on a local level?
I know that ANJEC and I believe Sustainable Jersey often has funding around ERIs and environmental commissions. I don't know that, I'm not sure how that would interact with it being a living document. So I think most sort of municipalities don't ever really treat it like that. So I feel like a lot of the grant work might be related to sort of just upgrading and making a new one. So it might require a bit more sort of direct conversation and there.
Or maybe a part of green space or funding.
Or maybe if there's a grant around a particular, because remember the ERI touches on a lot of different sort of sub areas. So if there's a grant around stormwater and around
The MS4 had a funding last year to do the inventory.
Yeah.
I don't know if Melvin applied or got that. I'm still trying to figure that out to myself. Where did that inventory go? But if that's available, as we said, we would like to incorporate into this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah,
Oh.
thank you, Mr. Wong. No, I'm good.
So, Mr. Chairman, Chair Woodby, with the chair's permission, helpful maybe to just sort of give a summary of context for potential master plan processes going forward and where the ERI might fit in.
Sure, happy to. So I did distribute, and I hope board members received a copy of just a memo, an advisory memo that our office prepared regarding the environmental resource inventory, which is a really great foundational document that provides the technical basis for future land use planning, master plan policy, development review, and potential zoning amendments for the township to consider. The ERI most substantively can support the preparation of a conservation plan element of the master plan for municipality. The conservation plan element provides for preservation, conservation, and utilization of natural resources, including the extent of appropriate energy, open space, water supply, forests, soil, marshes, wetlands, harbors, rivers, and other waterways. So that's an additional element of the master plan, just like we did the open space and recreation element. The conservation element is another one. The ERI can also provide the factual basis for land use plan element updates. And under recent amendments to state laws, I guess a few years now, when municipalities do complete an update or amendment to their land use plan, they're required to complete a climate change and climate vulnerability assessment. That can also be is an opportunity for us to leverage the ERI to develop that assessment document. And then finally, the ERI can also be used to support any type of master plan reexamination. The reexam is an opportunity for the township to go through the master plans, any new elements, and identify any inconsistencies between master plans, and identify any zoning changes or recommendations, but also recognize that the ERI now exists as a document, and that we should work to facilitate implementation of those areas and recognition of those there. So this is really a very foundational tool for the township to leverage as we move forward in additional planning efforts.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, if I understand correctly, from today, we have a the last time we did this was 2014.
Yes.
Was that whether it was an ERI or an NRI.
Yeah, that was EI at that time.
ERI at the time, okay, we used
I
that.
think before that it was
Before that, it was.
It's an older term, yes, NRI.
Yeah, I know, I'm showing my age again, but so it does exist, it is a part of our, it was previously adopted as part of our master plan, if I understand correctly. Either in the context of a conservation element or separately as an appendix, I'm not quite sure.
It was just referred to in the 2018 master plan reexamination and update.
So that's when it was, how it was done, okay, and there's at least maybe the possibility of incorporating what's anticipated to be the updated version in some way, shape, or form through this body as the gatekeepers, as I always like to say, of the master plan, down the road, perhaps as a master plan re-exam or otherwise, correct?
Yes, correct.
So this is a tool that can be utilized, I guess, immediately, but it can be even more formally adopted, this updated version, prospectively by us as a planning board as we go forward. Is it fair to say?
Yes, I would characterize it correctly.
All right, any questions? Sounds good. Thank you guys very much, appreciate it. Alrighty, on to our next order of business. Yes. Please, so we have executive session, if the board chooses to go into it, pending litigation, case number 225 CB 17318, SDW ANE, High Center for Living Judaism, Inc. versus Township of Milburn, New Jersey, and Township of Milburn, New Jersey, Planning Board.
Right, and I think, Mr. Chairman, as we've done in the past, this is our last item, we can let the members of the public know that after the executive session, we'll only be reopening the meeting to adjourn the meeting. There will be no further public business done in the open session. But with the chair's permission, I'll abbreviate the executive session resolution, whereby the general nature of the subject matter is pending litigation, the High Center for Living Judaism matter, docket CB 17318 in federal court, and it's anticipated deliberation conducted in closed session will be disclosed to the public on determination by the board that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality, and is an exception, pending litigation is an exception from the Open Public Meetings Act, hence we can have a closed session. So we do have a formal memorialized resolution to that effect. It'll take effect immediately. I just asked the chair to have us do a motion, second, and roll call vote.
Make a motion to go into executive session and adopt the resolution as Steve has stated. Do I have a second? Second. Roll call vote, please.
Jonathan Baxter,
Yes.
Allison Canfield,
Yes.
Michael Cohen,
Yes.
Deborah Nevis,
Yes.
Michael Zion,
Yes.
Sergio Sisto,
Yes.
Chair Gaston Hopper.
Yes.